Once upon a time, a small-town boy from the South traveled across the ocean to the island of love called Cyprus. He grew into a fine young man on a mission to preach the gospel to the whole world. Then, one day, when he least expected it, he met a Polish girl. Risking it all, he asked her out on a church date. It didn't take long before they fell in love and lived happily ever after. Hold on, I missed the best part. They had a son, later diagnosed with autism, which changed everything. Then 2 years later, they welcomed a little girl with a heart of gold and a will of iron. They were missionaries and autism parents trying to keep the faith and sanity. Each week, they'll share their journey of love, faith, hope, special needs parenting, and everything else in between. Here is the preacher and the Polish girl.
Love and marriage.
Do they go together like a horse and carriage?
Like a horse and cabbage.
Well, it is February, so that means we have to talk all things love.
Let's talk about that.
So, how do you think love, marriage, ministry, and special needs parenting, how do you think those merge in a perfect
Come
blend?
together?
Yeah, how do they come together?
Like a horse and cabbage.
Like a horse and cabbage. Only Ula Tinsley, folks. Only Ula Tinsley could turn love and marriage into
It's all,
something about cabbage.
I blame the cultural differences.
Yeah,
Cabbage, Polish.
Well, it's the
very
Polish, yeah.
yes.
Valentine's Day and
Cabbage.
it's all about cabbage and guamkis.
No, let's be serious. Because love is a living organism.
It is.
We have to water it, nourish it,
Yep, it needs a lot of TLC. It needs a lot of attention.
sometimes taming.
Sure. Yes. But love is foundational to life. It's foundational to our faith. It's foundational to family. It's how families get started in the first place. Two people meet, they fall in love, and
They
the rest
eat cabbage.
They eat cabbage, sure.
And then the babies pop in the cabbage field.
Cabbage
See?
Patch Kids.
I told you.
Yeah, I see what
It's all about cabbage.
that worked out well.
And
you brought it all
horses.
together. You brought it all together in the end.
No, let's be serious. I wanted to talk about the pre-parenting era. You remember the love, falling in love and everything. So,
The romance,
the romance, the dating, the
being able to
courtship.
being able to just decide on a whim. Hey, let's go to the movies. Hey, let's go to this restaurant.
Hey, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up.
You stop typing. No, you stop typing.
Yes.
Yeah, the modern era.
Yes,
Sure.
times. But why is it different? What changed, do you think? Because there is a difference between pre-marriage love, then you get married, your love matures, then you have the fruit of your love,
Sure.
the babies pop out from cabbage,
Yep.
and then, what are the differences?
I would say to me, looking back when we met, and I was just, I'm not ashamed to say this, and I still feel this way. I was head over heels about this little lady here. So I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to spend as much time as I could with her. I wanted to impress her. I wanted to make her feel safe. I wanted her to feel beautiful, all those things. And I still wanted those things after we married. But one big change, I remember the biggest thing that clicked for me the day of our vows, the day that we actually tied the knot officially. I remember that night, my love didn't dissipate at all. My love didn't dwindle at all. But this big word came rushing into my life that I'd never really accounted for. Commitment.
Yes.
Commitment, not like I'm going to be committed to this girl
Not
for the rest of my
chains.
life. Not that type of commitment. It was, wow, this is another human that I need to be as a husband. I need to be responsible for. I need to protect. I'm on the front lines of her life. And now, of course, she's an adult and she has the ability to take care of herself. She knows what she needs, but just we become one. And so for me, I got this sense of commitment. And I realized that it's time to be a husband and to be the protector, to be the provider. So for me, that was what changed. That was the biggest change for me. What about you?
I don't know. It was nice to know that I found someone who loves me, who knows me enough to want to marry me and spend hopefully the rest of his life with me. So that was like, wow, this is my human.
Yes. That sense that, this is the person that I wake up to, and we're going to see each other at our lowest moments. We're going to see each other at our best
No,
moments.
I didn't think about the lowest moments.
Well, no.
It was all still very...
Well, sure.
I was seeing you like, oh, I wonder how our babies will look like.
Sure.
If we're going to have babies. Because,
Yes.
of course, when we got married, you were very gracious to accept the medical diagnosis that I shared with you that most likely I will never have children. But God had different plans.
I never really doubted it because I just had this sense that we were going to have children. And so it was never something that I really feared or shied away from.
I was kind of like Sarah, I guess, because I was like talking about adoption because you really trusted God that you will have son and daughter of your own one day. And I was like, yeah, okay, so he wants children, so probably we'll have to adopt. And we discussed the option of adoption, remember? When I told you my diagnosis and the doctor's opinion, and you were like, well, there are so many beautiful children that are looking for loving parents. So
vaguely, if I'm just blatant as I can be, I remember that maybe
we were just trying to please me.
very vaguely, very vaguely.
Right.
Yes, but I believe you.
Yeah.
Relationships are all about trust, and I believe that we did have this conversation.
Do you remember when I gave you cabbage? No.
Back to the cabbage. What is it with you and cabbage today?
Know. I think it's February. That's why.
Yes, something to do with.
But let's talk about maturing love. Because that changes, like we say our vows, life changes, we move in together, we start our life, and of course the reality hits.
The bills hit.
Oh, the bills, and just you become an adult.
Yes.
Not always the nicest feeling.
Sure.
Because it's like, it's okay to date and show off. You pay for my dinner and everything. But then we share our life together. Everything is common. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, so we have joint account. My money is your money is my money. That's
Sure.
tough. That's a huge change.
It is a huge change. And then when you start to pay your bills, your rent, you start to try to furnish the home. You want to have as nice a home as
You
possible.
want a bachelor pad style. And I'm like, no. We want some flowers and pinky and schminky.
Whatever that means. But yes, one of the things I have to brag about my little wife here, because one of the things that I was able to have from the very beginning, the first place we lived together as a married couple, I was able to have a man cave.
Yes.
In that, we had 3 bedrooms, and that third bedroom was mine to have my guitars and keyboard and stuff from my childhood. So that was great. You've always been good about that.
Yes, I tried. But do you remember our first house? Of course, we didn't have much money.
Nope.
And we were still trying to begin our life as a married couple. And the living room was very 80s. It was the decor that was already there because we were renting a fully furnished place.
Yeah,
so
fully
they had
furnished.
The high sparkle, high gloss, fake wood.
I'm sure that furniture was used in numerous MTV 80s videos.
It was black and red couches and the armchairs. And then the table was glass and very shaky. Eventually, I think it collapsed. So
what were those beautiful side tables you designed?
The side tables were amazing because they were basically the boxes.
Cardboard boxes with dish towels.
Yes.
But very, very precious memories. Looking back now, those are actually very precious memories.
And we're very happy. Even though, we didn't have much, but I didn't mind inviting guests and stuff.
Because I think people expect that when you're a newly married couple, they know, unless you were born with a silver spoon or, a real high-flying job or something, that, you're not going to have everything right away.
Right.
And you actually appreciate it more because we did, as we both worked and stayed very committed to having the best life possible for ourselves and for our
future children.
Yes. We ended up with having a lot nicer things.
Right.
And you appreciate them. I remember how great I felt when I was able to buy you a brand new car. Which, on a side note, turned out to be the lemon of all lemons. But the fact that I could get my new wife a brand new car within, just a couple of years of marriage.
Yes.
For me was a real mountaintop experience as a man. I felt good that I was
Yes.
able to provide
Absolutely.
that new car for her. Sorry how it turned out, but I still feel good about the accomplishment.
Yes.
And of course, buying our first home together. All those things happened in Cyprus. It is the
Yes.
island of love after all,
It is.
as we've mentioned in previous episodes.
And not so much about cabbage.
No.
No, it's
Again
more
with the
olives.
cabbage.
I know. I don't know why. Maybe I'm craving cabbage. I don't know.
It's in your roots. You can't help
It's
it.
in my roots.
But when you factor in love between a brand new couple that, have fallen in love and want to spend the rest of their lives together, they get married, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we got thrown a big curveball.
Yeah.
And it's that third phrase that we mentioned in our intro, and that is special needs parenting.
Yes.
That is not something that I use this.
We didn't
I say
expect
this.
that.
I say this lightly. It's not something we signed up for, but it's certainly not something we expected. And it did throw a major curveball. It did kind of throw us for a loop at the time, and it still presents challenges, but it's part of our lives now, and we're very thankful for the two children that God has blessed us with. But yes, love and marriage, that undergoes many challenges.
Parenting changes the marital bliss, especially the first 2 years when the baby is born, when you sleep less. And when you sleep less, then you become more grumpy because you're more sleep deprived. Then the blame game may begin,
Sure.
like, hey, I keep getting up at night, or, I change the diapers. And so the first conflicts in marriage may come with the baby.
Sure. I think probably your biggest arguments, pre-babies might be finances, but certainly once
Sometimes jealousy.
Sure.
If it's like, a very young love.
But once the kids come, I think once the kids arrive on the scene, that's probably when your first big kind of arguments may come.
Yeah. How did we resolve those?
Well, for a man, I would say that one of the changes, one of the things that we have to learn to be selfless and less selfish is we find out when you get the new baby in your life that you can't be. It doesn't mean that your wife loves you less, but you can't be the same priority that you were before the baby arrived on the scene. So that was difficult for a little while, and I had to get used to that. It wasn't that you loved me any less. It's just you
And I
had
tried
a
to
brand
give
new
you as much
responsibility.
attention
Sure.
as I could, but at the same time, I was also getting aggravated because every time I tried to do something, the baby would be waking up hungry or wet or whatever. And I mean, that's
life.
That's
Yes.
life, yeah.
And so you mentioned about maturing love. Well, we've been together now. We've been married for
74 years.
74 years. No, it only feels that way.
Yeah.
Seriously, we've been married for 17 years.
Has it been that long?
You're looking at me with a look of shock.
I'm checking the ring. Wait,
checking
because
the ring.
our ring has engraved date.
The date.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong
You're
ring.
looking at the wrong ring.
This one is from you.
Yes.
The-
Oh, from me, as opposed to the other husbands that gave her wedding rings. Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so yes, 2005. I was right.
Thank you.
So it's going to be 18.
It's going to be 18. It's not 18.
Yeah, but kind of. The year.
See?
The year.
See how the fights change
Yeah, whatever.
as you get older?
No, it's like the same with the birthdays. Yeah, I say the year you were born. For example, you were born in 77. So in 2023, doesn't matter which month you were born in, that's 2023 minus 1977.
Which means I'm 45 until...
Six.
No. I'm not 46 until September 7th.
Yeah, but you're 46.
I think you've had too much cabbage. Maybe.
Back to maturing love.
Back to maturing love. For
17,
us,
almost 18 years of marriage.
our podcast is called The Preacher and the Polish Girl. And so certainly the preacher part is a big part of our lives because, we are a family. We're a Christian family. We're a family based on the foundation of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And He is the ultimate foundation, and He's the ultimate key to our successful marriage. But I would say what is part of the maturing love? I would say it is our shared, yes, it's our shared faith, but it's our shared humor. You learn to laugh at each other in a nice
Crickets.
way. Not in a cruel way, but we learn to laugh at each other, tease each other in a mean, derogatory way. And then we learn to laugh. Then we learn to laugh with each other And then, of course, the best is when you laugh at others. No, I'm just kidding. We don't do that. In fact, we have a pretty strong stance in our house about that. But no, it is laughter.
Yes.
Laughter to me is a big part of maturing love. And if you can laugh together, man, you can make it through anything together. Is what I feel.
Yes, it's true.
So just learning to just look back and say, you know what? That wasn't the best, but you learn to embrace, each other's failures. You learn to embrace the challenges of life.
Even especially in parenting.
Yeah.
Now we look back, even though it was stressful, we shed many tears and
Sure.
panic attacks and everything
Absolutely.
else, that's not necessarily a laughing matter. But now we can look back and laugh at certain situations or the way Michael does his hand movement, the Jedi master control.
Sure. And just both of our kids are hilarious at times.
Yes.
Our Michael is very funny, very mischievous. The way he figures out how to get his way just keeps you, actually has us rolling in laughter at times, just the things he does to get his way. But then our little girl, Vivian, is hilarious. I think we have both rubbed off on her in more ways than one, but she has that kind of shared zany comedy that we have.
A little bit sarcastic, a little bit maybe too much sarcasm.
Sure, it's all in there, but it's
She's
just...
definitely your daughter.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, I take that as a compliment.
Well, you should.
Good.
Because Michael is my boy and Vivian is your girl.
This is going great.
Oh, yes. It's all love.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How to keep the fire burning? That's a big question, isn't it? Being in full-time ministry, we have couples that we can look to as kind of heroes, because they've been together a long time. Both of our parents on both sides of our family have been together for over 5 decades.
Yes,
right? So
right.
that's great. But then we have couples, who are younger than us, who look to us at times in our position for guidance. And of course, we want to be good counselors and good advisors. But to keep the fire burning, our go-to on that is always going to be keep God first. He's the foundation. He has got to be number one in both.
Then people are like, okay, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but what
How
else?
Can you keep
How else do you keep the
Yes,
fire burning?
Yes.
Well, never stop dating.
Sure, but I say communicate. That's number one. I think a lot of couples,
I didn't hear you.
including
What did
us-
you say?
Oh, haha.
Yes, you see what I did there? That was
Yes,
a little... Okay.
I saw what you did there. They
We're-
saw what you did.
We're-
I see. I see what you did
We
there.
are communicating. But no, it is absolutely, you're right. It is communication, and it is...
Trust.
Trust is a big, big key.
Yeah.
My mom gave me some of the best advice that I've ever heard in my life. And she said years ago to me, before I was married, before I was even seriously dating anyone, she said, listen, son, you have to learn to tolerate what you refuse to put a stop to.
Wow.
And I thought about it for a second. I was like, okay, what does that really mean? She goes, listen, if something really bothers you before you marry someone or before you start dating them seriously, if something really bothers you, but you're not willing to confront that and say, listen, this is not something I'm prepared to accept or live with, then you have to make the lesser joyful decision and say,
Sacrifice
well, I'm just gonna have to accept it, and I'm gonna have to learn to tolerate it. So it's very important in that communication thing that you let each other know what bothers you.
And again, it depends how big the thing that bothers you is. Because if it's doctrinal matter or, faith matter, it's unequally yoked. It could be a huge
Absolutely.
thing. Or when it comes to medicine and medical procedures, there is a lot of differences there.
Sure.
Then the marriage may not survive, especially when you have children and about their future, deciding about their future. And if your life view is different, philosophy, then it can be a problem.
No secrets.
No secrets.
That's a big one. No secrets. No personal communication. No going behind one another's back to talk about marriages with a person of the opposite sex. In other words, husbands shouldn't be going behind their wife's back talking to a female friend about their marriage and vice versa. This is not healthy. And so that's a big thing. So certainly trust, communication, no secrets. Don't stop pursuing each other.
Right. And don't stop making an effort.
Absolutely.
You want to look best, not for others or Facebook or Instagram or whatever the new social media is for the young people. You want to look good for your husband, for your spouse.
And you want to look good for your wife.
Well, that's spouse, right?
Well, yeah, but I was saying for me, I was trying to add my
okay,
part.
yes.
Because you said your part about the husband. I want to say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was trying to,
yes.
trying to reciprocate.
Okay.
Did I not communicate that well enough?
Yes, you're very nice.
So I would say the greatest benefits of being in a marriage, I mean, there's a lot of things we could say, and we're going to be talking about this
In the next episode
yeah,
as well.
we're going to be discussing these subjects throughout the month. So this is kind of a all over the place, a little bit of everything, but we are going to try to get more specific
About cabbage.
about cabbage. But the benefits of being in a marriage is the fact that you have someone who you're united with, and it's a gift from God. And I will say this in the nicest way possible. The physical relationship is a gift from God.
Yes,
and
it
there's
is.
no shame, and there's nothing that is undefiled in the bed of marriage. So it is something that God honors, and it's the only relationship, it's the only physical relationship that God puts his stamp of approval on. It's not just a man and a woman marrying, but it's a man that loves God and a woman that loves God marrying. Marriage is getting redefined by our culture.
Yeah.
And there's all kind of labels, but I would say not only is marriage not the things that modern society are trying to tell us it is, but it's not even just heterosexuals marrying. God's true definition of marriage is when two people that love him meet and come together for the purpose of glorifying and honoring him ultimately with their lives.
Another benefit of being in a marriage is that you can trust your partner, your spouse, and know that you will not be exposed to any STD
Sure.
or any other diseases and so on that come
If you do it
with...
God's way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of examples of good marriages in the scriptures, but there's some bad examples too, meaning that these people that were recorded in the Bible were just as human as we are, just as flawed. And, you know, there's obviously some very famous figures like Abraham and Sarah, and then, of course, the famous Egyptian handmaid Hagar. And so people say, well, I mean, is polygamy biblical? Is it acceptable? Polygamy is biblical in this sense. Yes, it's biblical, meaning that it's recorded in the Bible.
Right.
But as far as God approving of it and saying, yes, this is what I intend, no. We know that because all the way back in Genesis, we read those powerful words, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, one,
Yes.
and they shall be one flesh, back in Genesis 3. So that is the cornerstone of life. It's the cornerstone of faith. It's the cornerstone of everything is the fact when a man and woman meet and they become one flesh. Now, I've got to correct myself a little bit here because I said Genesis 3, but I'm just going to read the verse. It's actually recorded, and I knew this, it's actually recorded in Genesis 2.
Okay.
Genesis 2, verse 24.
All right.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So I quoted it right, but I just had the wrong
Yes.
reference. I had
Yes.
to fix that. But yes, you know, we have that whole recorded aspect of Abraham and Sarah thinking, well, specifically Sarai, before her name change, thinking that she needed to help God out, needed to help her husband out. You know, he's supposed to be the father of many, and he didn't have any children. So they're like, hey, you can have my handmaid. You know, I'll fix this problem. God isn't, you know,
I don't know
fixing
how
it.
she did that.
I really don't either. And
As a woman, as a wife, I'm like, nuh-uh.
but it's almost like she got to a point where she thought, you know, God's not
But
hearing
on the
me.
other hand, she was a typical woman because we women tend to fix everything. So
Well, that's
when
traditionally said about
God
men, too.
doesn't- Yes, but it's in a different matter. Like when
Yeah.
God promises something, we take things into our own
Sure.
hands because, like, okay, the timing, you know, we're waiting. Okay, maybe God meant for me to fix it. Of course not, but yeah.
And, you know, the other really famous figure in the scriptures was King Solomon, considered the wisest
Boy.
of all. But, you know, I mean, hundreds of wives and, you know,
And
wow.
concubines.
Yes.
I mean, oh my
so
goodness.
again, God allowed some things to happen in those days, but it doesn't mean that God approved those
Or
things.
that he instructed.
And he certainly wasn't following the instructions.
Yeah.
You know, throughout the Bible, you see people like us making real mistakes, and they're not doing it because they said, hey, God, what should we do here? What's the best decision? They trusted their own way, and you see how it turned out. But, you know, nowadays, I go back to the point of redefining marriage. I don't care how people try to redefine marriage. and give new twists and new slants, and people are trying to say that there's new information about relationships. There's new legitimate relationships. Love is love. No, true love is from God. We know that. But marriage cannot be redefined because man didn't come up with it. Marriage is a design of God. It's an institution ordained by God. And so nowadays, pastors are facing mounting pressure. Should
pastor be mandated to marry
should we
same-sex?
be mandated to marry same-sex couples? And the answer is absolutely not.
Right.
Because marriage is defined in scriptures. It's not defined by a culture or society.
And of course, the union between same-sex couple, they want to have some stability and pass on inheritance and have the same legal rights as heterosexual couple.
But here's the thing, and we hear that argument, but ultimately it comes down to this. You cannot expect God's blessing or God's approval when you don't do it God's way.
That's right.
And so we cannot cave to pressure. We cannot bow the knee and say, well, this is what people feel is right, so it doesn't matter what God thinks. And God will never bless it.
No. We cannot redefine what's in the Bible. We can try to change the definition and interpret our ways, taking it out of
But
context.
God will never...
God put very simple instructions.
Yep.
One man, one woman.
Absolutely. And so, we are a cultural, how would you say this, culturally divergent? Is that the right phrase?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no, culturally diverse family.
Yes.
Or
diverse.
couple.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? I feel like I'm not saying it right. Well,
With cultural
me
differences.
being a deep,
yes.
a deep South boy here from Easley, South Carolina, you being from the deep
north,
the deep
center
north
of Poland.
of Poland, there's differences and even, cultural differences in how one expresses love.
Yes.
Like I grew up, and it's still this way to this day, where everybody you talk to that's a family member and many close friends, you say, all right, love you, Dad, love you too, bye.
I know, for me that was like, he said, I love you. The problem is, well, it's not the problem because this is how I was raised, and I know a lot of my friends in Poland, we just don't say I love you much. When you say I love you, it's kind of like...
You don't have to say you love me.
Exactly. You have to show that you love someone. Like, I know my mom knows she's loved by my dad, and I know my dad knows that he is loved by my mom, but I honestly cannot remember even one incident that I would hear them say I love you to each other.
And it's not because they don't love each other.
No, it's just a
cultural difference. And it would even be culturally, it would even be different within the country of Poland.
I'm sure. And especially nowadays with the Western influence, I'm sure young people are saying I love you.
A lot more than they used to.
But again, like my parents always told me, like, don't say I love you to your boyfriend because, you may have a boyfriend, the next day you may not have a boyfriend.
Sure.
And you said I love you, it's kind of like commitment. So when you say I love you, mean it with all your heart. You know, and save it like really for a special person, for your husband or whatever.
Amen.
And then just
for me.
Only when you say, that's why you remember when you were going to work and not even looking at me, just as you were closing the door behind you, like, all right, I love you, bye. I'm like, you don't even mean it. You don't even look in my eyes. Say it like you mean it. So sometimes you were coming back, putting me like in a tango.
Maybe.
Across your knee.
Maybe this happened. Maybe it didn't. Maybe she's right.
Then I fed you some cabbage.
Yes.
No. Let's leave the cabbage.
What I think it boils down to is this. I think it's doing both. I think it is proving your love with action. Love is an action.
Yeah, we'll talk about the love languages in the next
absolutely.
episode.
But it's also saying it.
Yes, absolutely.
But the words will be empty if you haven't shown.
And again, look, I love you. But now look, I'm looking in his eyes. I love you.
Wow.
I know.
That's powerful, folks. It's going to be a good month. Thank you for listening today. And
I love you.
We love you.
We love you.
We mean it.